Well, that was rude. I got cut off, and I don't know why. Very interesting. I have a feeling it's going to happen again. So I messaged Pam, and I'm like, look at my face. Tell me what you see. You know, I said, this is me after being in Smith's. I think I got zapped, and I was just talking really, really fast, and I felt irritable and anxiety. And so I didn't realize all of this at the time. I'm just telling her, you know, just tell me what you see. You know, I think I got zapped. I'm not sure, you know. And so she like immediately messages me back, and she's like, oh my God, Carly, you're like talking like you're on speed, you know. And she's like, you definitely, something happened. She's like, you're just talking really fast. You're not talking your normal self. And she's like, you look really anxious and irritable, and you know, like your face is stressed. And I'm like, and I got back on, and I'm like, that's how I feel. I said, I feel like somebody wound me up and, you know, cut me loose. And she's like, Carly, you got zapped. You got zapped. And she's like, oh my God, you're feeling it now. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, no, I don't accept that. And so I'm just like, wow. So I had to go back to work, and I'm telling you, I struggled getting through work. And I never struggle getting through work. I love my job. I enjoy my job. I'm happy at my job. And I had a hard time getting through it. It really took everything in me to get through that day. And so this happened time and time and time and time again. Out of the whole month of December, there was maybe 3 days, 4 days out of that I didn't get zapped. That I was, in those days I was home. I was home, and I wasn't out driving around. Princess. Shh. And so I'm started connecting dots, and I started documenting, and I started videotaping, and Pam and I have gone back and forth many videotapes on Marco Polo, as far as putting our connecting our dots, so to speak. I was like 50% sure that's what was happening to me. And then I went to Ohio with my youngest daughter to be there for my oldest daughter's graduation with her BSN, her bachelor's in nursing, and for Ohio University. I was a little leery about the hotel and the airport, but I got through those no problem. And then the day of her celebration, her graduation, when we were in the stadium, there was 900 students. I was dizzy and my vision went blurry. I didn't really, I do self-blame automatically. So I'm like, well, jet lag, and, I'm already been pushing myself, and I was pushing to go and be there. And so, I'm just automatically thinking, well, these are the reasons why. So we went to a restaurant that night, and we weren't in this restaurant 10 minutes, and I was in a booth, and I was at the end, and I immediately felt it here. Chest tightens up, my upper back tightens up, I start feeling heart palpitations, and my throat starts closing, and I start getting short of breath. And then of course that creates its own anxiety, but there's this whole separate anxious, irritable feeling that just goes into this anger feeling. And that night was about my daughter. It was not about me. It was not about this bullshit. And I was not going to spoil that for her. So I just suppressed it and did everything in my power to sit there and not look like I was in distress. And just all I could do was concentrate on breathing. I couldn't tell you what any of the conversations were that night. All I could do was sit there and just go breathe. And then my youngest was sitting next to me, so I'm trying to keep it composed so that she doesn't hear me going, because that's what I felt like I needed to do, was get some deep breaths. And it was just taking everything in me to just meditate on my breathing, to just try to keep my breathing under control. And so when we finally, an hour later, got up, I nearly pushed my daughter out of the way, and because she knew something was wrong, but she didn't know exactly what was wrong. And I just needed air. I just needed to get out, and I needed to breathe, and I needed to do some big exhales. And so I just wanted her out of the way so she didn't hear me, and went into the bathroom and still tried to keep it composed, and, was trying to get deep breaths, but yet still not indicate how bad it was. And so, she's like, is it the Wi-Fi? And I said, I just need to get out of here. And while I was sitting there, it was like 30 minutes in, I think, I looked at the signals, and there must have been 30 of them, because it was like a uptown. So this whole place was lit up with Wi-Fi, and so all the signals were coming in, and it just was zapping me from the front, from the back, from everywhere. It's just like, and when I say zapping, that's what it feels like inside. It's not like when you watch people get electrocuted or tased, and they're doing this number on the outside. Well, that's what's going on the inside. Everything in me is just like somebody's just wounding me tighter and tighter and tighter. So excuse me while I take a drink of my wine. And it's just everything I can do to pray and just grin and bear it. And that's pretty much what I did. So when I went to go walk outside, I knew where we were going was to the left, but I just needed to go to the right where my daughter wasn't, so I could just and my older daughter's inside, and she's looking at me like, Mom, that way, and I'm like, oh, okay, I just acted dumb, like I didn't know, and it was just because I didn't want to lead on what was really going on. So we go across the street to go get these fantastic cookies, and I couldn't wait to get out, and I had warmed up. The last 10, 15 minutes that we were in there, my whole body was just, the temperature was just rising and rising and rising. And so by the time we got in the car, my daughter was like, do you want me to take you back to the hotel? And I'm like, yeah. Or she said, do you want to get in the car? And I said, yes. And as soon as I got in the car, it was Ohio. So I had gloves and a beanie and, a jacket and sweater. And so it was like I throwing everything off down to my clothes. And the tears just flowed. I just could not stop them. Well, then my older daughter wanted to come and tell me goodbye. And so I'm having to pull it back and be composed again, because I don't want her to be upset, and I don't want her to realize how in distress I really was, because it was just going to ruin her night. And so I'm like, told my daughter, my younger one, you need to just get me back to the hotel, and you come back and enjoy the night, with your sister. And so by the time I got in the room, I was a freaking hot mess, and I had nothing. I didn't know how to treat that. I use CBD with THC at night for my fibromyalgia and my insomnia, and I know that it's helped with these symptoms, but I couldn't take that with me to Ohio. So the only thing that I had was a hemp oil pain relief, and lavender essential oil, and then I had brought some green tea. So I'm just doing all of it. I'm trying to put the essential oils on me, and I'm trying to do the pain relief, and I'm drinking the green tea, and I could not get my breathing under control. And I was on Marco Polo with Pam, and so she's like, breathe in a bag, and, first she's telling me to call 911 because I'm under so much distress, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it, because the same reason you didn't do it, that we know that this isn't going to show up anywhere and that they're just going to treat me like I'm having a panic attack. And I know that that's not what it is, all it is. And then you go into the hospitals, everything's ran by Wi-Fi, you know, so it's like, it's just going to make my symptoms worse. And I'm going to sit there and go, oh yeah, like I'm being zapped by frequencies all over the place. And they're going to put me up in a 5150. So I'm like, no, thank you. I think I'll just, you know, I'll try to ride this sucker out and see what happens. So it took a good hour and a half, and she had me actually breathing in a bag, and that really made a difference. It really calmed my breathing down. So I have paper bags now. But it took about a good hour and a half to get myself under control. And then it's like a bug in a bug zapper. If you watch, you know, they either die or they just lay there like, ah. And that's exactly how I felt. So by the time that my daughters got home or back to the hotel, you know, I was just in this, I couldn't go to sleep, but I was just zapped. And again, I didn't want to ruin it for her, you know, I didn't want to say anything. And, you know, they were like, but then my daughter, Eliana, started asking, you know, well, why are you not feeling good? You know, do you know what the source is? And was it, you know, the Wi-Fi? And so I showed them the video that I had sent to Pam of me in such distress. And it was hard to watch because I even made myself watch it. And it was very hard to watch. And it was hard for them to watch. And, you know, so trying to explain this to my two grown daughters was hard, you know, because like I told them, I'm fighting something I can't see. When I feel it, it's too late, and I don't know how to fight it. The bizarre part to all of that is probably a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to our trip to Ohio, I laid in bed one night, and it was like the Lord just laid on my heart. He's laid on my heart for the last 6 years, make them aware of a lot of different things in the world that most people are not aware of. I wasn't aware of, you know, and I used to tell him, it's rabbit holes I don't really want to go down, Lord. Maybe you can find somebody else to do this, because I really don't want to be that person. But it was the same thing with my hospice care. I did caregiving, and I took care of people for a good 10 years, 15 years until I fell into the hospice. And that's what I thought. I fell into it. But I didn't realize that you don't choose hospice. Hospice chooses you, and it's a gift from God. And it took me a long time, but once I embraced it, because I kept saying, no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, this is too hard, it's too emotional, it drains me, and the minute I embraced it, and I just had an aha moment, the minute I embraced it, it quit doing that to me. And it was a gift from God, and I was able to even create my own hospice training manual. I did a lot of training. I probably trained 100 caregivers in hospice care. It became a true passion for me. And where most people run from death, I run to it. And it's not me. It's the Lord that works through me. So I had told my kids, he had laid on my heart that night, you need to tell your kids, you need to make them aware of where my will is, where my passwords are, where they can find this document, where they can find that document, what my wishes are, what my 5 wishes are, where my advanced health directive is, things that I want them to be aware of, that if it appears that I had a heart attack or stroke or Alzheimer's, it's because these frequencies, because of this electromagnetic radiation that is now my body cannot tolerate anymore. And I have become symptomatic too, and I don't know what that's going to mean, because what I already have experienced is it forces not only physical symptoms, but emotional, mental changes, cognitive impairment in me. And that gets a little scary. So I not only told them where they could find these documents, I made sure that they knew I am not homicidal and I am not suicidal. That I will fight this thing with everything I have. And that if God brings me to it, He will see me through it. So they could rest assured that if somehow they heard that I killed myself, that is not me. That was not my wishes. That is not something I self-induced, and that they need to look into it further. So, you know, I'm having this experience in Ohio, and it's just confirming for me that they needed to see this. They needed to see this to understand the severity of it. And I'm still trying to understand the severity of it. So the next morning, I woke up, was cheerful, was great, was wonderful. God just totally rejuvenated my body. And they were like, who are you? You know, what happened? And so I basically laid out to them, you guys have front row seats to what's going on with me. You know, that it's not a coincidence that the next hotel room is full of nurses. It's not a coincidence that you're a nurse and you just got your bachelor's. It's not a coincidence that I have fallen into this 2% category of weird and rare, unusual things that happen to my body since 1990. It's not coincidence that from the time I was born, I have fought to survive, you know, and being a survivor of long-term sexual abuse, you know, 2 domestic violence marriages, 2 rapes, 5 suicide attempts. It's not a coincidence that I'm still here and that I get to go down this rabbit hole, and that you guys have front row seats, because you're going to see that I have been at the happiest time of my life and the healthiest time of my life. And it's going to eventually take me down if that's what the Lord wants. But it's not going to be anything other than what the Lord wants. And it was a hard conversation to have. So that night, I told my daughters, when I arrived in Ohio, I was 50% sure that this is what was happening to me. I can tell you right now that I am 95% sure that this is what's happening to me. And that the only reason I'm not 100% sure is because I'm going to hang on to that 5% of hope. That hope can mean I'm wrong. Princess. That hope can mean God's going to use me to help find answers. Hey, shh, Princess. No, it's fireworks. Shh. That 5% can be anything. But I have no doubt what's going on. So we came up with a plan. And that was that I would end up, you know, wherever we are, family events, whatever, if I up and leave abruptly, that I don't want to make a big deal about this. I just want them to know that if I up and leave abruptly, whether I go home or I go to a room, that it's because I'm feeling it and I need to get out of there. And that I needed to let them know, you know, no news was good news. But if I'm feeling effects, that I need to let them know at what level, from a level of 1 to 10, because Ohio was definitely a 10. And that if I do like a 911 ... 10, that means I've called 911 because I'm at a 10. So we developed this little plan, and I felt really good about it because, like I told them, I don't want to burden them with every little symptom that this thing is causing, you know, within me. I want them to know the long-term effects, that, you know, each zap is going to affect my body in some way. The little bit that I've learned, I mean, watching Pam, researching a little bit when she was going through this, and now a little bit more for me, and she has defined it pretty good. And that is that you put a piece of chicken in the microwave and turn it on and leave it on. That's what's happening to us. This is radiation. This is being zapped with radiation every single day, and being sensitive to all the things that we all take for granted are harmless. So, I said, I just don't want to make a big deal about it. And I don't want to be that person, that they're like, what? She's feeling frequencies? She's feeling Wi-Fi? So it's like our plan was great until it wasn't. Until it changed. And that was only December 15th. And on December 24th, well, let me back up. The week before Christmas, I was basically zapped every single day when I would get out and about. All of a sudden, I started noticing that I'm driving to work and I'm feeling my chest tightening. But where before, it wasn't bothering me. Driving around doing errands, I'm starting to feel it. Days that she didn't send me to the store, but ran errands, I'm feeling it. And I'm like, this is freaking crazy. So maybe after a week, I think, week and a half, I decided maybe I need to check the signals when I'm sitting there at the light and I'm feeling it, I'm like, okay. So I started checking every single intersection. And every single intersection in Vegas, you get hit with basically 4 to 20 to 30. They fluctuate the whole time. So, but when you're sitting there at a signal, and you're not feeling good, it's like, pull up your Wi-Fi signals and see how many signals you're getting hit with, because that's exactly what's happening. All the cell towers, they're bouncing off of each other. Who's in the middle of the cell towers? We are. Go read those cell towers. They've got warnings all around them. 3G, from my research, 3G and 4G was never tested, and they're getting ready to roll out 5G, and it was never tested for health dangers. And do you think that these telecom companies are going to all of a sudden go, oh, we're so sorry, you're not feeling well because of our tower that we just moved in next to you that we did overnight, and you woke up the next morning and we were there? No, nothing sneaky about it at all. You think they're going to take it down? No, because people want fast streamlining and fast downloads and be able to do more faster things on their multiple tasks on their phones and on their computers. And so who cares what their health risks are? And we're collateral damage. That's what we are. So I basically was supposed to be, and this is going to make me emotional because this Christmas was harder for me than probably any Christmas I've had in a very, very, very long time. My daughter, my oldest daughter, and her youngest son came the Thursday before Christmas, and stayed until the 27th. My plan was to go that Friday night and spend Friday through Wednesday with them. That Thursday, I couldn't do it. I had been pretty much zapped all day through going to work and doing errands, and then I had a doctor appointment, and by the time I got out of that doctor appointment and got home, I had to get things packed and put together, and I couldn't get my brain. My brain was like scrambled eggs, is how Pam describes it, and that's how it feels. Very scrambled, very can't pull your thoughts together, can't put them together. And so I'm like, I can't do Thursday. I'll come Friday. And so Friday came, and I was not well again, but I went to work and ran errands, and Friday was just, it was malls. And we were in the mall, we were near the strip, and I just kept feeling it and feeling it and feeling it. And then I had to leave there and drive to Summerlin, which is like 30 minutes away. And then I had a 3-hour doctor appointment in a medical facility. And then I had to drive another 30 minutes. And by the time I left that place, even though they dilated my eyes had gone blurry again. And a different blurry than the dilation, where this had happened before, and I was lost, and it took me an hour and a half to get home. And it was scary because where it should have only taken me 30 minutes max. But I couldn't see signs. Everything was blurry. I couldn't get my thought process together. And it was just like bing, 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 ping, ping. It was like inside of me I was just getting wound tighter and tighter and tighter. And my upper back is hurting and my chest is hurting. And and then of course, then you go into the normal anxiety panic of, oh my God, I'm having trouble breathing. It's dark and blurry. I don't know where I am, of that fear. This is different. I don't know how to explain how different, but it is a completely different feeling that it's just constant, it's wounding up and wounding up and wounding up and wounding up. And there's just it just feels forced. That's all I can say. And so that time took me an hour and a half. So this night I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to be fun. I got to go home. It's dark and I'm blurry, and I'm starting to do the normal panic. And then I'm like, okay, got to calm down. And everything's round up, and the anxiety and the irritability is all increasing. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. We can do it. And so thank goodness it was familiar grounds. I'm going to have to start a new one.